Loki Season 2, the show where their time travel doesn't make any sense and they're proud of it.
Is he talking to you in the past and you're just now remembering it?
That makes perfect sense. There's no flaw in that logic.
Winking at the audience about how trash your storyline isn't funny. Actually, much like the rest of their show. Because I know they're trying to be funny, I can even point to the parts which I know is meant to be comedy.
I have no memory of having my memory wiped.
Thanks for that, Bill. I just have absolutely no idea what's meant to be funny about it.
Got about an hour. Got about 5 minutes.
Comedy! So this entire episode has two possibilities. Either this is the greatest, funniest show ever made, and I just don't get it, or this entire episode was a load of bunkum, and the showrunners knew it. So join me as we venture forth into Loki Season 2 and discover who's right.
Long ago, organizing the sacred timeline.
This is only the recap. How did you manage to come up with an accent that annoys me? Sounds like me trying to do an American accent. But Loki appears and we've got a giant statue of Kang. Don't worry, everyone's safe, he's not in a car. We meet Loki, and as you would expect for the hero of a TV series, he's running away in fear. Remember, he's a god. And it's just 3 guys, only 2 of which are security. Oh, Mark, panicking! You're so scary! I'm always petrified of the guy who's run 20 meters and looked like he's about to have a heart attack myself. But oh no, it's over. He's met 2 people coming the other way. Not as if Loki could beat 2 people. Now, of course, the other Loki, which isn't hampered by such weighty things as Loki's dangly bits, without having to drag around those massive kahunas, she's obviously far more agile and could just beat up all these people. But Loki can't do that. They're just too heavy for him. Oh, sorry, this changes everything. There's actually 3 guards he ran into. No wonder he decided not to fight.
What is going on? Mobius, it's me. I don't know you.
Nor do I. I thought this was meant to be Loki, not a scared little child.
Mobius, it's me.
Please, Mobius, I'm pissing myself. I was at least hoping it'd slip you up as you ran over the oil slick. So then Loki, oh, I'm too scared to just fight a couple of people, decides to do this. But let's pay attention to which way he runs. To the right. I'm gonna play the next bit without cutting because otherwise you're gonna think I faked it. So he looks to his left, runs to his right, and then dives over the edge to the left. What did he do? Confuse them all by spinning around on the spot for a little bit? I'm gonna run at the wall and then accidentally teleport over here. This is a show who can't even work out which way their actors should run in a scene. Can you leave via the right? My right or your right? It only gets worse by what happens afterwards, actually. This is a guy who jumped off a ledge without knowing there was anything beneath him and just happened to fall in a car. What happened if he'd fallen and hit the ground? Could he survive that? If he could survive that, why did he fight 2 people? Well, for some reason, she's like, oh, there's someone in my car! Body type 1 drivers, eh? Didn't even look where she's going, smashed into Kang. Car hits the window, Loki climbs out.
I'm fine.
And murders a woman.
Should be fine.
Marvel humor, everybody. Best in the world. But then the giant golden ball falls.
Ball. 5 balls.
Smashes the floor. We've got to zoom in on it to make sure that you really grasp what's happened. I'm going to zoom in on it again, just in case you didn't get it from the first time we did it. I'm surprised this guy didn't walk up to him and gone, oh, you've smashed the floor that I was cleaning.
Have we met each other?
Now this, where the entire plot starts to fall apart. He knows him in the future, but now he's met him in the past, which means he should know him in the future unless at some point somebody wiped their memories. Don't worry, it gets far more complicated than that later on.
Do you remember me?
Didn't you gather that from, who are you?
Have we met each other?
But then Loki looks how I feel when I eat Marmite. Yeah, it's horrific. And he's in the same place with the same people.
Loki.
Oh, now I know who you are because I met you in the intervening time during the last season. Yeah, but when you met him in season 1, why didn't you go, hey, I've seen you. You were that intruder like 200 years ago.
Just a second ago, where you didn't know me.
I don't know if you're paying attention, Loki, but this is a TV show. We were all there and saw it. You don't have to tell us. I wouldn't mind, but it was literally the last scene.
Casey!
Please say, you remember me now.
Something terrible is happening.
Oh, okay, at least it's not that bad.
I'm being pulled from it.
They have been pulled from dimension to dimension. And then he realizes that's the same floor.
Has it always been there?
I'm so glad he had to say it out loud and we couldn't just see the floor and then have him realize something. I'd hate to have to work it out myself. I'm glad he told me.
The crack? It's been there as long as I can remember.
Yes. Can you remember how the crack happened, considering you were in the pissing room?
I was in the past.
so why don't you remember me in the past? A guy flew through the window on a car and murdered a woman. That should stick in your memory.
Where's Mobius?
I just want him to say, it's Mobin time, just once. But as he tries to find Mobius, he time travels again.
Loki?
It was done off camera this time. It's cheaper on the CGI budget. It's not as if they've got any left. They've spent it on the volume. Back to the main timeline now with all the splitting parts of it. But they're discussing what they should do about the splitting timelines. She's like, look, let's just stop murdering the trillions of people in every single timeline we come across, because maybe annihilating all of the people in every universe is wrong. And he says...
And you think people are gonna be ready to hear that?
I don't know, mate. Why should I care about the fifis of people that were literally wiping out an infinite amount of people?
People have lives on the timeline.
Why would I care about their lives? They were evil.
They should have the chance to live those lives.
Why? They didn't give anyone else the chance to live their lives.
Think about it. Everything you've been doing is wrong, and all your gods are dead.
You're all evil, and so we're just gonna blow up the entire institution with you in it.
How are people gonna take that?
Why should we care how they take that? You're the villains. So then X5 appears, and what we get is a masterclass of script writing.
This one here, is this on the sacred timeline?
Pointing to a picture in a magazine, mate. I'm not sure why I should care.
Looks fun. Jet skis, sea-doos.
This is Loki. Why are we talking about jet skis being fun? Apparently, Sea-Doo is a brand of jet ski. Was that product placement for jet skis in Loki? Oh, they're so relevant.
One of these calling your name, Mobius?
I don't know about calling, maybe gently whispering.
This is a show about gods time traveling. What is happening?
You know, the funny thing about jet skis, everyone thinks that it's a personal watercraft, and it's actually a brand.
I'm pretty sure this is meant to be a joke. I just don't know how. If it's comedy, I don't know where it is.
Mobius.
I don't care. Why'd you ask?
I don't know. That's what you're supposed to be explaining to me. If I was involved in this conversation, I'd just assume they were high.
The Renslayer missing, there's a new judges council.
What did those two sentences have to do with each other?
Why'd you ask?
With Renslayer missing,
Why'd you ask? Rimslayer's missing. How are those 2 points related to each other? And why have you got someone in your show called Rimslayer?
Renslayer missing, there's a new judges council. Judge Gamble would like to see you both.
So he just came down to tell him there was a meeting, but thought he'd start a conversation about jet skis? I could only assume it was product placement, especially as they talked about brand names afterwards. Oh, Sea-Doos are jet skiers as well. Hashtag not sponsored, although I assume Loki was. In the UK, they have to declare product placement. I guess they don't hear. Guess it is Halloween after all. So Loki goes looking for Morbius, and we zoom in on the splitting timelines where no one's quite worked out why anyone should care.
Rumors.
What?
Nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing. I mean, a guy was screaming down the corridor and I saw him vanish. Just forget it though, it's probably someone else's problem now. What a great guy. No wonder everybody loves Morbius. But at that moment, the lights started to go out across the place. I figured I had to tell you because so many modern TV shows are shot in the dark. At this point, you might have just thought it was a directorial decision. Makes it more gritty. And then we meet this guy from the first series, I assume, even though I can't remember it.
Mobius, I was just doing my job.
What do you mean, pruning me?
That's what the kids calling it nowadays. What you two do in the privacy of your own offices is your business.
Well, I guess you're just following orders.
That's Hollywood for you.
It's actually Renslayer who really owes me the apology.
I tell you what, that Rimslayer keeps getting around, doesn't he?
What's the mood like in there?
English. They're all miserable, but you get the feeling they quite enjoy it that way. Then Loki appears back, even though we don't know where he went. He's only the main character. It doesn't matter where he went. Nobody cares about Loki's inventions in the Loki TV show. But then... oh yeah, he's still in a different time zone, and there's no one in the meeting room. But there is a giant picture of Kang's face on the wall. Actually considered that as a streaming background myself, just a giant zoom in of my forehead. Speaking of a forehead, they didn't do any compliments for him there, did they? Stick a deck of cards in there. Alright, calm down, music. It's only Kang, quite frankly. He's not that intimidating. The first time we met him, he got killed. The second time we met him in Ant-Man, he got killed again. Kang is like Thrawn. He just gets defeated all the time. You're supposed to be really scared of him. But then it zooms back into the present, I'm assuming, and there's a mural covering up his face. Just a nice little metaphor for Hollywood there, really, isn't it?
Create you, they kidnapped you from the timeline and erased your memories.
Yeah, that doesn't work. They're telling everyone the backstory, that they all came from one of these shards of time. Their universe got destroyed, but then they got employed over here and their memories were wiped. Yeah, that's at the start of employment. I really hope you're all gonna say they wiped all of their memories afterwards. Otherwise, why did that guy at the start not remember Loki? What happens next is an entire scene where the only question I have is, what was the point of that? It largely seems just to humiliate this guy over here. Oh, look, he's a bloke and he can't even stay awake.
The branches are growing. They're way past red line.
No wonder she's afraid. Reminds me of my youth. But some people are for it, some people are against. We should just keep killing the infinite amount of people across all of time. And others are going, maybe killing people is wrong. These are supposed to be the good guys. So they seem to have a really weird system where if they don't sit down and press a button, it's not on the record. Even our court system just has a person permanently employed to write every single thing down. That's how the record works. But in this...
Just need a moment to explain.
We are doing this by the book and on the record.
We just need a moment to explain.
We can control time, but this microphone's so trash, if you don't stand 1 centimeter away from it, it can't hear you. Also, push this button when you need that light to come on. We're going green, we're trying to save power.
Make it make sense.
I can't believe you just said that line in this show. I have a feeling I'm gonna get a lot of use out of that.
This carpet is a person with feelings.
Make it make sense.
So Loki's busy admiring Kang's face. Oh, there's a tape on the wall.
I will be proud to lead with you. You made a difference in this war. Thank you for being on my team.
And he's like, well, that didn't make any sense, did it? Didn't think I'd need to use this already.
Make it make sense.
For us, for all time.
Always.
For fellow Rinslayer.
Is that pissing Rimslayer again? No, Frodo, when I said destroy the Rim, I never meant this. This is why Google is the best search engine. You can put in Rimslayer Loki. Did you mean Renslayer? I don't know. Apparently I did. And it's her. You all remember her from the first series, don't you? She was so important, I completely and utterly forgot that she even existed as a person in the universe. Why didn't you rewatch season 1 before season 2? Because as they said in their own series.
I don't care.
That's not acceptable behavior. It is embarrassing.
Ah, yes. Just what the doctor ordered.
You are quite a marvel. I will be proud to lead with you.
Unnecessary, undeserved, positive affirmation. The empowerment series strikes again.
And under whose authority did you make the call to stop pruning?
What a great casting decision. I don't even mean the actor, I mean the accent. Here's authority. I cannot cope with you waffling on there at the back. Just shut up and follow orders, will you?
We're all variants.
And I'm not sure why that matters. We went around murdering an infinite amount of people is more important than, well, I'm not from this timeline. But where you are isn't even a pissing timeline. You're outside of time. Where did you think you came from? And they're just like, oh, we know because we saw Rimslayer. Sorry, Renslayer. It's going to take me a while to get out of that habit. Oh, you all had a life. It's like, okay, so what? Can we please talk about not murdering people in the future because we did horrific things before? And he's like, okay, but let's handle the fact that the timelines are branching and the sky hasn't fallen. It's fine.
What sky are you looking at? Are you seeing this? Robot head on the table?
So, that's the only logic you're going to get in this scene. Oh, we don't know what to do because it turned out the guy we were listening to was a robot. Okay. Does it matter who gave you the orders? The actions that you were doing were either right or wrong. It doesn't matter who told you to do them. Were the actions that you did right or wrong?
This changes everything.
How? Either what you were doing was good, or you're all evil, in which case you should be punished for it.
This changes nothing.
This changes nothing. We're still gonna go down the pub after this.
I'm sorry, Hunter. If we don't...
We just zoom in on this guy for no reason whatsoever. He serves literally no purpose except to humiliate him for sleeping.
What on earth are you suggesting?
What on earth are you suggesting? You're offending my sensibilities. I love it.
We've been destroying.
Yeah, you've been murdering an infinite amount of people, so you know what you should pissing do then, don't you?
There are people with lives on those branches.
Not anymore. There were until you annihilate them all.
And we have committed atrocities.
Yes. So why are you talking about going back to your own lives, rather than paying the consequences for your actions? I don't know. Maybe you should be held accountable.
Atrocities?
Yes.
Take caution in your tone.
I don't care about her tone. I care that she faces justice. If she's so bothered about it, why doesn't she want to face justice?
We don't have a moment.
I don't have a moment. The foot is starting in 15 minutes. This has got to be over. So we zoom on the robot head, even though he is entirely irrelevant. It doesn't matter whether a blue guy gave you the orders or Kang. Was what you did good or bad? And she's like, all my life I just said everyone was guilty. And I'm like, great. There's a load of guilty people right in front of you. Sentence them. So they keep arguing about whether they should just keep on wiping out an infinite amount of people, or maybe we should just, you know, not be the most evil people to have ever existed in any multiverse. I'm sorry, it's just very difficult to care about characters who are just, like, proud of being horrific. But then don't worry, we get an independent, unbiased verdict from the judge.
We can't go back to pruning those branches.
I can do anything.
Doctor Who had a rant like that. Doctor Who immediately realised he'd overstepped. I can do anything. I can master time. Time obeys me. And by the end of the episode, he'd learned. In this show, though, no, we've just got a maniacal bit.
Anything. Tell the TVA to stop pruning.
I can do anything, but just this once, I'll do something nice. Okay, love. Loki finally appears. This guy decides I'm just gonna nuke him with my stick. I can't remember what happened with him in the first series, and quite frankly, I mean, they couldn't even be bothered to tell me, so it kind of mattered that much. But don't worry, there's a problem in the room. All the men are trying to sort it out, and then this happens.
A moment ago, you didn't know me.
Stand down!
Yeah, we had to get the Banshee to stick her oar in just so she could feel important for a couple of seconds. I don't know if you noticed, but we've kind of got this handled, love. We didn't need you in the corner of the room screaming while you couldn't be bothered to do anything. You even woke up the most important person in the room, which at this point, I just assume is meant to reference the audience.
We found him. Who? Him.
Great. That's such amazing script writing. I want food for lunch. What? Food! We have mastered the linguistic skills of a 3-year-old. Congratulations, Hollywood, you're getting there. Give it another couple of 100 years, you might have the reading age of a teenager. But oh no, there's a mural on the wall. Oh, it's weird that I didn't know that that existed in the present, considering I've actually been in this institution for a very long time. And so he grabs his stick. And that was one powerful stick. Oh, I didn't know this room had a makeover.
That's who built this place. That's who stole your lives.
Okay, why should any of us care? Can we please get back to discussing how we've been wiping out an infinite amount of people and whether we should continue doing it? It seems like a bit more important than Dave coming back from the pub. So we say, oh, I was with Renslayer, but she went through a time portal. Or I went through a time portal. Then we get a weird The Boys moment. I don't know if this was in season 1. I thought she was going to feed him a bottle. We were going to get an old Little Britain scene where he just said, oh, Bitty. Even she's like, what on earth are you two doing, you insignificant peasants? That is the only correct reaction to this entire scene.
Timekeepers are fake, but their warnings were real. Seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah, Bitty. I was fed by my gran until I was 26. Don't worry, it hasn't affected him. He just prefers his milk past its sell-by date.
What do you want me to do?
That's a dangerous question to ask, given the situation. So she says we need to find out what happened at the end of time, and rather than sending him to the end of time, what you need to do is go and find Sylvie, the key to everything. And Loki starts filling this guy in about what happened at the end of the universe. That's right, they didn't need Sylvie, they could have just asked the guy that was there. Instead, they let the guy who knows the answers to all their questions leave the room, so they could walk off and find somebody else. I'm such a great leader! Says, I found Kang at the end of the universe, but he just keeps calling him. Did he never tell you his name at the end of the last series?
I don't know she's still there. I just wanted time to think.
I needed time to think, but she's just smarter than me, so she already knew what she was going to do. But I'm so thick, I needed a 5-minute timeout to catch up with her massive brain.
Just wanted time to think. It was an impossible choice.
Well, it's not as if I could blame him, though. The testosterone got knocked out of him when he had, like, an infinite amount of people kicking him in the dangly bits.
How quaint.
Unfortunately, that didn't happen this episode.
She seems so certain. How could she be given the possible conflict?
How could she be certain? She's just more intelligent than I am.
I just wanted time to think.
Why can't I have time to think?
Oh my god. Why is Loki, the god, the guy who's attempted to conquer planets and has lived for I don't know how many centuries, acting like a 3-year-old toddler?
Slow down, Loki.
If he gets any slower, he's going to travel back in time.
It's okay.
All right, mate, we didn't need the ASMR stalker breathing down a phone call section of the TV episode.
Mobius.
It's Morbin time.
We got to the man at the end of time, and he made sense.
He was the most egotistical git in the universe. Oh, I'm so dangerous, you can't fight me. And yet he failed to realize if there was an infinite amount of him, there was also an infinite amount of heroes to stop him. And considering this guy was beaten by ants, there's also an infinite amount of ants to stop him in the universe. Quite frankly, I'm not scared. And he says if we free the timeline, we just make more of him, and he's really scary, and I'm scared. Because I'm only a god, and that's why I'm petrified, because I'm weak. And she's like, well, she knew, though, because she actually has a brain cell, so she knew he was the devil, wiped him out, solved the problem. Me, though, I didn't know.
We fought Mobius, and she kicked me through a time door. How quaint.
Like the useless, empty husk you are.
Well, I'd ask who won, but
I'd rather just emasculate you in public.
It was a draw. Kicked each other through time doors simultaneously.
This does drag on a bit, just humiliating Loki. Look, this is funny, folks. This is a comedy joke. I think. It could also be a body type one that wrote it. We'll never know. Although it's not funny, so, the odds are increasing.
Forget about it. Look, Renslayer kicked me down some steps too.
How is that meant to make him feel better? Yeah, don't worry. We both get beat up by girls. I mean, at least that guy is just an ordinary bloke. Loki is a god and gets defeated by himself, except a smaller, tinier, less of weight, slower, weaker version of himself.
Focus on what we know. That is what we know.
Well, that was handy. And what does that mean? Oh, yeah. Fighting. It's a really deep conversation. I hope you can keep up.
War, and it's on its way.
If we leave the timelines, there's going to be more Kangs and they'll fight.
Preservation of the sacred timeline. It was about preventing more of him.
But do we really think wiping out an infinite number of people just to stop one bloke existing is worth the trade-off? Look, we've had horrific things in our own history. Mr. Blobby was an abomination. I still don't want the entire timeline erased just for him, though. I mean, have you ever seen the Teletubbies with all the colour removed? It's like the scariest horror film ever made. I mean, just look at this thing. I don't know about kids, I wouldn't sleep for a week. They're horrific. We've got, like, the acid sprayers coming out the ground. This is scarier than Kang. I don't want the entire timeline removed to get rid of it.
Preventing more of him. There was no simple choice. There was no other way.
Yeah, there was. You just don't do the pruning. He was only trying to save himself, preserve himself. He was fighting his own personal war against himself. He won by making sure that none of his others could exist. He was selfish and got bored. He wasn't a good guy. He was wiping out an infinite number of innocent people, along with an infinite number of people that could stop him.
Oh, how would I not remember that? Because he wiped your memories.
But how often is he wiping their memories? He wiped your memories when you came out the timeline, or just wiped it at a random point in the middle when I decided I should make an orange god your leader rather than me. Sorry, blue god. Just in case there's any tangerine aliens out there that are getting offended. Sorry, extraterrestrials. Aliens is offensive now, apparently.
And he obviously did it more than once.
Because you're an idiot who can't remember anything. Can you imagine the problems with wiping all of your staff's memories repeatedly? You'd have to do it all at the same time to everybody, otherwise they would know. Hey, Steve, why don't you remember me? That's weird. But then if you wiped everybody at the same time, you'd have to reteach them everything. You wouldn't have an institution running because everybody would be having their brain wiped, which would mean the timelines would grow again while you were doing it.
Make it make sense.
So he keeps discussing how I keep time traveling around. I was in the past, I was here.
Where in the past? Here, the past TVA. No, there is no past TVA.
Of course there is. There has to be. Otherwise you're saying all of the events are happening at exactly the same point of time simultaneously, in which case, how are we having this conversation? We would have already have said these things simultaneously. How do you have cause and effect if there wasn't a past to cause it?
Make it make sense.
So you say he's wiped my memory multiple times. Yes. When? In the past. Ah, see what you did there.
Make it make sense.
But it does now because it's happening to me. It's impossible.
It's impossible, except for what happened 5 seconds ago. It's now in the past.
Possible, maybe.
Guess that's one way to prove it. So then we get one of their jokes.
I mean, how does it feel? It's not that bad. Really? I mean, it look...
The joke is that it looks painful, but it isn't. Comedy.
I guess it doesn't look that bad, but we can get you some help.
So he's like, you can't contact Miss Minutes, Rachel. She was with him at the end of time. And so he says, I'm taking you to repairs and advancements. It's basically IT. That's why it's in the basement.
I can't keep looking at it because it's horrible. What? I thought you said it didn't look that bad. I was lying.
Comedy! I feel like I have to point it out, otherwise nobody's going to realize.
Looks like you're being born or dying or both at the same time.
Which maternity wards have you been in, if that's what it looks like? This is how a Hollywood writer is born. It turns out there's a random woman in there with them.
It's not that bad. I can handle it. How does it look?
Comedy! I know it's meant to be funny. I just don't know why. Like, seriously, I'm so confused. It might just be me. I don't know. And there's a sign, minimize chit-chat in the cafeteria, limit your lunch break to 17 minutes. How are you going to do that? There's no time in this building. How are you going to time 17 minutes when you don't have a past or a future? And if there's no past or future, why does it matter how long you're on your lunch break for? But they exit the cafeteria. Like, he who remains named himself after the last man standing. That's pretty arrogant.
Is it arrogant if you can back it up? That's scary. Imagine 1 million of them.
Yeah, but there isn't, is there? There's only ever one last man standing. The rest of them are basically just losers. So far in the MCU, we've just met all of the losers. But no one's scared of them. So then we go into the basement of the elevator in the basement.
I have no memory of having my memory wiped.
Thanks for that, Bill. It's like saying you've never tasted the color blue. And we get the scene that destroys time, or at least any actual law of it in this universe. None of this makes sense. Guy descends from the ceiling. We get a whole interaction which I think is meant to be interesting. It's not interesting. QB is really excited. It's great to see you again. I don't see many people down here. And he can't even remember it. Which isn't even a joke at this point because he keeps talking about having his memory wiped. So you don't know whether he can't remember him because he had his memory wiped or whether he can't remember him because it's been so long since he went down there. And so it wasn't a big event for him.
I'm all boys.
That's right. It's Lister from Red Dwarf, otherwise known as Our Rob or Ross. Basically, his parents couldn't decide which name to call him. Ouroboros meaning love? How many people are typing that into Google? It's a snake or a dragon devouring its own tail, especially used to represent the eternal cycle of destruction and rebirth. And some people are like, that's just my relationships. Just an endless cycle of destruction. Oh, it's Robin Hood all over again. Just like, yeah, everyone calls him OB. Turns out Morbius hasn't been down here for 400 years. But to the guy, that was a major meeting because he was his last visitor.
400 years. That's right, yeah. Hey, how are the other guys doing?
What other guys?
Comedy! I know it's meant to be funny. I just don't know why.
What other guys? It's just OB. It's just OB. Yeah. OB.
No, I don't get it. I don't get it. At this point, it's either them or me. It's one of us. But we find out what he does during here. He opens up a little tube, and then he decides to fix it like an Apple MacBook. I mean, he did say he doesn't get any sleep for the hundreds of years that he's down there, so, you know, smashing electronics with a hammer kind of makes sense. Who knows? Maybe that was the hard drive with Batgirl on it, or all the recorded footage of Snow White. Then eventually we get back to the pissing plot, rather than just pretending we're being funny. I don't know. He's like, well, that can't happen. That's time slipping. But you can't do that here. He did it here.
It's impossible to time slip in the TVA.
I know, but we just saw it.
Yeah, I'm having trouble reconciling that.
Comedy! So then he travels back to the past, meets the guy that he's already met who hasn't had his mind wiped, and we're about to completely annihilate the time stream and any kind of understanding you might have of cause and effect, because we can't write time travel. So he calls him OB, basically giving him the nickname that he only found out in the future. So we're already creating paradoxes there. He tells him he's time slipping, and he's like, look, can you fix me? He's like, well, only if you had this device in the future.
It's impossible to time slip in the TVA.
You just saw it happen.
Yeah, I'm having trouble reconciling that.
Comedy! But then he says, look, you can't be time slipping because I've never seen that happen before. Hang on. Yes, I have. It was a long time ago, but I couldn't remember it in the past, and now I can remember it now, even though there's no past in this pissing place.
A long time ago, he came to me complaining about time slipping.
Yeah, except when I saw him the first time, I didn't know that had happened because it hadn't happened yet.
Is he talking to you in the past and you're just now remembering it?
That makes perfect sense. There's no flaw in that logic.
Comedy. If we point out how terrible our script is, our inability to write, and how we've made a universe that doesn't make any coherent sense within its own rules, and it's fine, we're self-aware, not stupid. We know we're awful at our jobs. That somehow fixes the problem. He's like, I told him it was impossible, but now I've come out to fix it, and I've built this object in the past to take with you that I'm gonna keep here until the future when I can give it to you to fix the problem when he travels back to you.
It sure would be more convenient if we were having this conversation in the future, and this were the past.
We were.
We're gonna pretend that our bad script writing and inability to create a coherent universe is actually a joke. No, we know what we're doing really. This is just, it's funny. Don't get it, it's just gone over your head. Don't worry, the really intelligent people that you'll never meet, they understand true comedy. They laughed. So they build the device in the past for him to hand him in the future. And he says, you need to go out into the time stream, put this there, and then, well, Loki's got to do something of his own. By the way, it's gonna rip your skin off.
You need to get to the temporal loom so the extractor can pull Loki directly out of the time stream.
Did you understand that? Because you've just been told in the script the events which are about to happen, but we're also going to assume that our audience is thick.
Do I need to get to the temporal loom so the extractor can pull Loki out of...
That's literally the same line that the other guy just said to you. Why don't we do this for every single line? Just repeat it, so that way we can turn a 20-minute episode into a 40-minute episode. Yes, it'll be the same show twice, but our audience is so thick they'll forget it the first time round.
I thought you said not too bad, and now you're talking about me getting my skin peeled off of...
Well, he never said there wasn't an upside. We just have different ideas about what's best for the universe. It's Morbin time. So he tells him he's got to violently rip yourself from every shred of time and space. Basically, just hit yourself with one of those sticks. Apparently, he'll get get ripped from time, and the extractor will then somehow reform his atoms into the present, even though he's ripped himself from every piece of time, would include the present. Given the quality of the rest of their time travel speak, I'm being absolutely serious, it's probably better if you just turn your brain off. It's the only way it's going to be fine. You don't want to think about this one.
When something is pruned, it's released from time. Do you prune yourself, the extractor will pull you into the present.
I spend longer thinking about whether my heart should beat again than they spent creating that description.
Of course. Yeah.
If we write in the script that we know it's awful, that makes it all better. We're self-aware, not stupid. Comedy. I mean, at this point, your guess is as good as mine. That's probably a thumbnail in it. Is like Potts sticking his tongue out and nobody knows why. And if that doesn't work, yeah, you'll just die. So he goes back to the present. They have a bit of an argument. Do you want your skin bit tough? Oh, do you want to die forever? And he gives them the magic stick of doom. Oh, that's weird. This light keeps turning off and on. I thought it was just a director's decision to make the set dark, but no, it's part of the plot.
What?
Oh no, we'll have to go to the temporal loom. All those branching timelines must be overpowering the temporal loom. It was only meant to spin time into one thread. What? Are you now saying that this institution actually made the timeline and before that it was just time, but they actually made it into a timeline? Because if that's what you're saying and the universe didn't exist until they created it with the time loom, then where did they come from? A universe without the timeline? I'm so confused.
Make it make sense.
Get this weird line from It's Morbin Time.
Piece just came off right here. Is that important?
Well, apparently not, because at no point throughout the rest of the episode will they ever reference that again. So why was it in the show? Cut it. It's a literally pointless line. Oh, by the way, I've just broken your device, but it's going to work perfectly anyway in the future and there's going to be no problem, so why am I talking about it? And then they go through the red door in the Eye of Sauron. Sorry, Ahsoka's on my mind as well. And then we get the worst cut in the history of editing. So this is the explanation of what they made with the temporal loom.
Where raw time is refined into physical timeline.
Yeah, so before their institution created the temporal loom to turn time into a timeline, there was no timeline, which means there was no people, which means where did the TVA come from if there was no people?
Make it make sense.
Oh, please don't tell time travel stories if you haven't actually planned it out. I mean, I was with you until you started saying that you actually made your timeline with a machine.
It's not constructed to weave together so many new branches.
Why is it weaving together any branches? They're just branches. Leave them alone. I mean, at this point, it seems the solution is to just blow up your time machine and let time do whatever it wants. But he's like, no, I'm gonna have to bring down the blast doors and work out how I can fix my machine that seems to be oppressing time. But when the blast doors come down, it means Loki can't travel back in time and do his machine for some reason.
Make it make sense.
But at this point, I think they've just stopped trying. So he says, you've got to go and do it now or never, because when those blast doors come down, despite the fact that this room has nothing to do with what you're doing, then you won't be able to do it. So just assume I'm correct, even though I'm absolutely not, and none of it makes any sense. So he says, here's your stopwatch. When it turns green, hit yourself with the pointy end.
You'll stand by to prune yourself.
That's Loki for you, always standing by to prune himself.
Green, Mobius succeeded. Green means prune.
Thanks for explaining the green light to your audience like the window lickers you seem to think they are. When it turns green, hit yourself with the pointy end wasn't complicated enough for you to explain it like I'm 2 years old.
Too late. You will be lost.
You've already said if he fails, he dies. You don't need to repeat this stuff. How complicated do you think your writing is? Just because what you're writing doesn't make any sense doesn't mean it's difficult to understand. It just means I know you're talking bullshit.
Got about an hour. Got about 5 minutes.
Comedy! So after he's been told, you've only got 5 minutes to do this, you need to leave right now.
They're going after Sylvie, that's their only lead. What are you doing?
Yeah, you've been told you got 5 minutes to live, and you're like, hang on, we can stop that. I'm gonna go over here now. Do you think you can do that job in 5 minutes? How did you forget you're going to die in 5 minutes?
Where are you going? Sylvie, Doc.
No! What an idiot!
No! We have one shot at this.
How did he forget that? He's literally just been told, like a window licker, exactly what he had to do multiple different ways. But it's like, no, don't worry, I've got him. I'm gonna sit on him. It'll be fine. The problem is, he time travels and drops his pointy stick because you see, when he travels through time, he doesn't take any inanimate objects with him, except his clothes. Yeah, so it must just be, he will take anything with him that's like in his pockets or touching his skin, you know, like things that he's holding. I mean, yes, it doesn't make any sense, but we're self-aware, not bad writers. We know we're awful. That makes it better. But he travels like he's a pop star from the 90s. I whip my hair back and forth. But the blast doors are down, which can only mean one thing. He's in the future.
It's the future.
Thanks for telling me that, mate. I couldn't have worked it out from the two things that you showed me specifically, so I knew it was in the future. He's like, okay, I need one of those sticks in this current time. So then Morbius gets dressed up like Robin Hood's gynecologist. I've heard the stories. I'm not going in there unprepared.
Is this cracked?
Get back.
Comedy.
Ready to see some hoofing like you've never seen before.
Okay.
Comedy. So then he goes out into the time stream. I don't know why he's got this massive tube behind him. Like, if that's just meant to be oxygen, really don't need that much oxygen? Is it meant to be time? I don't know. Daggers out to the end. You really have to question, if you can only be out there for a short amount of time, how did they build that thing in the first place? And he's running around the entire institution. We get more of him staggering through time, and he makes it to the end. Shoves this device, which nobody had because nobody knew they needed, even though it fits exactly into this giant ball thing, and activates it. Loki's still running around looking for a stick. It's not green yet, and that means I don't need to prune myself. Joke's on you. You do now. So as he's running around, we see all the lights going out everywhere. The world's ending because I failed in the past, which is now the future, which I'm in, even though I'm going to succeed in the past, which will prevent this future, even though this can't be the future because there's no time in here, even though I'm in it.
Make it make sense.
Yes. Hollywood, everybody. We're going to make a show about time and put absolutely no thought into it whatsoever. It's also entirely coincidental that this is the exact same set that he ran past at the start of the episode that we're reusing because it's very expensive. We fire off a lasso into time. It's turned green. I need to prune myself. I can't prune myself at will. I get stage fright. Performance anxiety. That's right. A phone starts ringing. OB's like, I need to close the blast doors, and that'll stop this, even though I don't know why, because I don't know if anyone's noticed, but the machine, which is bringing back Loki, is already located outside the blast doors. So why would closing the blast doors stop the machine, which isn't behind the blast doors? And think about it, just turn your brain off for the entire series at this point. I'm not going to say you're going to be fine. We're not going to be fine, but at least it might preserve some kind of mental capacity. So he's like, I will close the blast doors in 30 seconds. During this time, Loki is deciding to walk extremely slowly towards a telephone. You've got 30 seconds. Please, can you hurry up? Oh, it's a telephone. You're right next to it. You could just pick it up and this will all be fine. But then a lift opens and I'm just gonna stare at that as well. I'm gonna take absolutely no action, even though my life is in danger and I've been told I need to prune myself and the light's green. I'm gonna stand here and stare at absolutely nothing. Do something. He's like, oh, 5, 4, 3, 3. He's giving him more time, even though Loki doesn't seem to care what happens to him.
3.
I don't want to do it.
Not yet. Give him more time.
Why? Loki doesn't seem to care what happens to him. He's just standing there like an absolute numpty. So he has no choice. Has to close the blinds, even though I don't know what the blinds are going to do. He's told us, I just don't know how that works. So at this point, he needs to get back. Largely because he's already been told you can't stay out there too long, so why you're still out there, it's too long.
There is nothing you can do for him.
And that taper stuck on your visor isn't going to last long either, mate. So he starts heading back, but now he's got to drag that massive tube all the way back for some reason. Why wasn't it just a smaller oxygen tube?
He's not going to make it.
That's because he keeps staring at the phone, rather than picking it up and going, hello? How did you know I needed a phone call? You're going to die, mate. Could you at least show even a modicum of caring about your own life? Oh, look, it's me! Why'd you even care about you? That's you from a different time. Was it really that great a fantasy to you as, I wonder what it'd be like if I didn't have dangly bits? That you're gonna have to stand there and stare at a lift. You're not even helping her. Do something.
There you are.
Oh. Thank you, Mrs. Stating the bleeding obvious. But then someone sticks him in the back with a stick and saves his life, despite the fact that he couldn't be bothered to do it himself. Am I supposed to care about this character who is apparently a god and yet seems to have the IQ of a chinchilla? This guy's struggling to get back. I just don't have the energy. But at that moment, he turns around to see a light. Comedy! He saves him from burning in the time stream, somehow saves himself, despite the fact that he couldn't be bothered to save himself. It just happens.
We need to find Sylvie.
Why?
I need to travel through time and space just so I can get my end away with myself.
And then we see all of them walking through a time portal. We made it look like this just so we can walk through a green screen and be very easy to edit.
All this for Sylvie?
Yeah, I mean, when Loki ran away, we only sent 2 guards after him, but Sylvie needs all of this. She has the ultimate power for fallopian tubes. Ah, it's all over. Except it isn't. No. The creators are so arrogant, they think you have to sit through pages of their own name appearing on the screen. Because as we all know, whenever you watch a TV series, you always care about the people who made it. I really need to know whether Dave was the cameraman who decided to set up that specific angle. But once you've sat through the creators' own egos, rather than caring about their ability to simply entertain you and then leave quietly with their dignity intact. It's an after-credits scene in a pissing TV series on a streaming service where I can skip the credits. So Sylvie walks through a time portal. Don't know why she didn't walk through a time portal when she was in the lift.
I don't care.
Oh, look, it seems like she's entered a different universe of product placement land.
How do I do this?
I'm loving it.
What would you like?
Before we go any further, I feel like I should add that obviously McDonald's signed off on this.
Not squirrel, not possum, not rats. Something that's already dead and nothing with a face.
Figure out how to look there, love. This is McDonald's. I'm loving it. And then she cries because she looks around at all the happy families at McDonald's and she's like, oh, they're all eating really unhealthily. This is the best moment of my life.
I want to try everything.
I saw a guy who made a movie about that, love. It caused him to take supersize off the menu. I know you're a god, but I wouldn't recommend it. You'll end up looking like you're about to enter a time stream. And so we get an incredibly emotional scene where Loki does product placement for McDonald's. And if one thing could sum up that episode, I think it's that final scene. This is what Disney have become. Product placement for other major corporations. Because nothing else happened in the first episode. You could have actually begun this series at the start of episode 2. I don't think anyone would have even realized. This entire episode was pointless. It didn't do anything. There was no story moved along. It didn't explain anything. Didn't continue anything from season 1. It was just Loki traveling around the offices going, by the way, a guy's coming. Yeah, we know. That's how season 1 ended. And so you get a pointless episode and parts where I genuinely don't know if I just don't get the humor, but some people think it's good, or whether it's just not good. I know it's meant to be funny. I don't know why. And at least on some jokes, I could be like, I understand that, I get the point of it, I just don't think it's funny. In this, I don't even know why it's meant to be funny. Maybe it's me. Maybe this show was amazing. Maybe this was the greatest episode of television ever made, and people were wetting themselves laughing at it. And if it was, I can only apologize, but I just don't get it. So let me know down in the comments, what did you think of it? But for now, that's it from me. If you like the video, press like, subscribe for more videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.